All right, so we're now going to move on to talking about backend technologies. So we're going to start with Node.js. Okay, Node.js, the long version is it's a platform that's built on Google Chrome's JavaScript runtime, and it's used to build fast, scalable network and web applications. And it uses an event-driven, non-blocking input-output model that makes it lightweight and efficient, making it perfect for building real-time applications. So the short answer to that is that it allows us to run JavaScript in a backend server environment. All right, so there's a lot of things that you can do with Node, and it's kind of taking over the industry right now. So it's definitely something that you want to learn. Now, if you're still in the learning phase of the whole world of web development, some of this stuff might seem extremely scary. All right, I was a little overwhelmed when I started learning this stuff as well. But once you wrap your head around it, it's really not that bad, and I think you'll be amazed at the things you can do, and do it with very little code. Alright, so let's start to talk about what makes Node great. So when you have a technology like, let's say, Apache, which is a web server, and you write web applications in something like PHP, okay, this works synchronously, meaning that it does some kind of process, and then it waits, does another process, waits, finishes that, and moves on. Well, Node.js is asynchronous, and that makes it so that we don't actually have to wait for one process to finish before starting the next. Okay, and this is called a non-blocking model. Apache and synchronous systems use a blocking model because you're essentially blocked off until the current process is complete, okay, before you can start the next one. So with Node being asynchronous, it's optimized for throughput and scalability. Now, there is one area where asynchronous programming is a bad idea, and that's for applications that are really heavy on the CPU. Okay, for applications like this, you'd probably be better off with something like Apache. All right. Now, as I said earlier, Node is event-driven, so it basically sits on a single thread and it waits for events. As soon as Node starts its server, it initiates all the variables, declares the functions, and then it simply waits for events to occur. After that, it triggers a callback function when one of those events are detected. So whenever an event gets fired, its listener function starts executing. And there's actually an event emitter class which is used to bind events and event listeners. So let's take a look at a really simple example. All right, so the first line here, we're saying var fs equals require fs. So what we're doing is we're bringing in the file system module, all right, which is called fs. And this is actually a system module. It's not something we would need to install with npm. It actually comes with Node. And it's basically used to work with the file system and work with file paths. All right, so we're requiring that, we're putting it into a variable, and then on this line, we're taking that object and we're running the read file function or method, which does just that. It's going to read a file. So it takes in the name of the file, input.txt in this case, and then it has a callback function. And this callback function gives us an error object to work with and the actual data. All right, so we're going to take the error if there is one, we're going to check, and if there is one, we're going to just console log the error and the stack. All right, and then we're just going to return. If there is no error, it's going to go on to console log, it's going to take the data, and it's going to just output it as a string. All right, and then finally, we're just logging that the program ended. So this is a very simple example. We bring in a module, we run a function, and it runs a callback function, and then we do what we need to do with the data that's returned. So Node is available on all popular platforms: Windows, Mac, Linux, Unix, Sun OS, and it comes with a binary installer and is available on both 32-bit and 64-bit chipsets. Okay, we'll be using Windows in this course, and there's a really easy MSI installer that we can use. It's very self-explanatory, just like any other Windows installer. And it also installs NPM, which I'll talk about in a minute. Okay, it also comes with a REPL client, or REPL, which stands for Read, Eval, Print, and Loop. So it's basically a terminal that allows us to run JavaScript. So NPM is the Node Package Manager, or sometimes called Node Package Modules, and it's used to install packages and modules. We can run it from our command line, It's automatically installed with Node version 0.6.3 and later, so it's not something that you need to worry about installing yourself. Alright, you can browse the repository within the terminal with commands, or you can go to npmjs.org and you can browse the repository on the web. Alright, so to install a module, if you take a look at this example, we have npm install Express. Express is a very popular framework that is used a lot with Node.js. So what that would do is install Express inside of a Node modules folder that it would create on its own if it's not already there. Alright, now you can add this -g to it, and that'll install it globally, meaning you'll be able to run it and access it from anywhere. Okay, it won't be just in that application. And then down here you can see we're just requiring it and we're bringing it into whatever file we're using. Okay, so types of modules. There's a lot of different types, but these are the main categories of modules. We have frameworks such as Express. Express is definitely the most popular. I think it's either the first or second most downloaded Node module. Then we have template engines like Pug, which used to be called Jade. We have EJS, which is embedded JavaScript, and Handlebars. Okay, those are just some of the many template engines. We have utilities like Path, which is a system module which is used to work with file paths. We have OS, which is used to work with the operating system, different API modules, different compilers, things like that. And then we have database object relational mappers, so Mongoose, MongoJS. These are used to interact with a MongoDB database, which we'll get into later. Okay, you can use pretty much any database with Node.js, but Mongo is one of the more popular ones. Alright, so we've come to the end of this slide. In the next video, we're going to jump in and install Node and get started.